Very good evening to you. It's after 7 o'clock. It always is before we start. But listen, we've got to have a post-production meeting at some point in time, and what better time to do it than starting at a minute to 7. You are tuned to the football pitch live on YouTube with myself, Cammy McDonald, and it's just Dennis Newell tonight as we look at Scottish Cup fixtures. Probably take a look at the FA Cup fixtures and shocks. Might even talk about Women's Cup as well. Who knows? Obviously, a bit of league business during the week as well. So we'll cast our eye back over that. But all I've got to say is, as always, guys, go ahead, like, subscribe. If you're watching this tonight, go ahead, like, subscribe to the show, tell your pals, let everybody know. It does help us out. We are chasing 100 subscribers. Got a bit to go, but we are chasing towards 100 subscribers. So let's get to 3/4 of a century, first of all. But we are a damn sight closer just now than we've ever been at any point in time. Dennis, how are
you? I'm fine, Cammy. Thanks. Still a wee bit choked with a chest infection, but it's getting there. It's disappearing.
Good.
So hopefully I don't cough too much. Yeah.
No
I'm
bother.
Okay. Yourself?
Aye, much the same. Yep. Busy week at work. As always, you know what I mean. So things is good. I'm looking at exploring another YouTube channel, but we'll come to that at some point in time. Once we get that sorted. But no, all good. Yep. So
okay.
Listen, let's talk football. There's not much. Let's forget the weather, as we always usually open the show with the weather. Let's just get straight into the football. And I think the place to start, I know we're going to look at the Scottish Cup, but I think the place to start is last weekend's FA Cup, and possibly one of the biggest shocks in British football in recent seasons. You know, obviously 2006, we're coming up on in fact, we've just passed the whatever anniversary it would have been of Clyde beating Celtic at Broadwood. But I think that shock last week in terms of Crystal Palace going out of the FA Cup, holders remember, going out of the FA Cup to a side from the 6th or 7th tier of English football in the shape of Macclesfield Town. By the way, who played very, very well. That wasn't a smash and grab result. You know, they played really, really well. That's one of the biggest shocks I think I've come across.
Oh, I think it is, without saying that is the biggest shock in the English FA Cup. There's been other games in the past I've seen and they've been exciting. I watched the game by chance. It wasn't something I'd planned to do, but it was just on, and I thought, I'm going to watch a bit of this. And I tell you what, it was an exciting match. Crystal Palace never turned up to the point that they wouldn't really play like that in the normal Premier League. But you know, it's back to you look at it's 11 against 11, and Macclesfield had the desire and the hunger to win this. And that's what we've got with Scottish teams coming up here with the lesser teams, hopefully putting up a good show over the weekend and even tonight when Rangers are playing. So, you know, there's always that opportunity. But I never thought I'd ever see the gulf being so big that a Premier League team would be beaten. But I'll tell you what, Macclesfield were the better team on the day without any question of doubt. And they had players in that team that I look at it and I go, I had a rant about it last week about where are their talents coming into the game or new signings. And I'm thinking, if that's the 6th tier, why are we not raiding the lower divisions of England and dangling a carrot in some of these boys' faces and saying, come up to Scotland and play? And I'm talking about our lesser teams in the Premier League. And because I'm sure they would be able to afford it. I mean, some of these guys are getting paid decent enough money with the likes of Macclesfield. I wouldn't know exactly what they're on, but it probably will be near our championship level. So some teams in the Premier League could actually capture some of these guys. I mean, the boy Dawson was an absolute standout with Macclesfield, and so were a few others. I mean, I could get even the defence, Heathcote, Lacey, fullback, decent. These guys were all decent players. And I'm thinking to myself, why is there such a shortage coming in the door at what I was ranting about last week with the Old Firm? when they're struggling and they're going abroad to Germany and God knows where else to bring players in, when I'm sure if they actually saturated the English market, looking with scouts, we could actually produce some really good players in Scotland via the lower divisions in England. I just don't see why we're not doing that. But just going back to it was a great game, Cammy, and it was a really thrilling match to the point when Crystal Palace got their goal. It wasn't a consolation, but at the same time, it was the 90th minute, and I thought, oh, could we be having one of these where the top team actually get into injury time, get a draw, and we end up with penalties or extra time, and they lose it. They didn't. They hung on. Absolutely magnificent. And you look at the crowd as well. There was nearly 5,500 at that match.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to say that there would be the level of junior because the stadium, if you looked round about it, was as good as some of our championship teams, or even maybe one or two of the Premier League teams. Yeah. So they're very well equipped, and they've started from scratch, I think, at Macclesfield. And the chairman was on at half-time having a conversation. He's done an exceptional job when he bought the club, when it was going down the toilet. So it shows you it can be done. You can resurrect teams. Macclesfield, brilliant. So, yeah, delighted to see them actually going through.
Yeah, and obviously, ultimately now we've had news today that Oliver Glasness, the Crystal Palace manager, is leaving the club at the end of the season. I don't think it's anything to do with that result, and apparently it's nothing to do with transfers or lack thereof so far at Palace.
No, he'd had a conversation, I believe, with the chairman around about August, September, and that was his choice. He didn't actually want to publicise it, but it said that he wouldn't be signing a new contract. I think he's just looking for another opportunity, something fresh and challenging, which is really good to see. That his results have not been great recently, but he's been a big success at Crystal Palace, and it's a change to see someone leaving a club without getting sacked or hunted out the door. So it's quite refreshing, and he did do an excellent job at Crystal Palace.
Yeah, he's been linked with the Manchester United job. I think Manchester United came out and kind of says he's not being considered. He's not on the short list, but he's certainly somebody who I think would have done a job at Manchester United. His style of play, I think, would be suitable to Manchester United. The way he set Palace up, with likes of Mateta up front. You've got the two fullbacks in the shape of Gay, who has been outstanding. Mark Gay's been linked to Liverpool, etc. So, yeah, it was certainly a shock result last week. I mean, Palace, they did play a lot of fringe players, a lot of youth team players. But aside from the Premier League, should have enough strength to go out and beat a side from, as we say, the second team down south. But, I mean, not really many other shock results unless you want to look at, obviously, Sheffield United going down 4-3 at home Mansfield last week. That was a bit of a shock as well, But, beyond that, nothing too outstanding coming out last week in the FA Cup. Chris, we're both at it now.
Yeah, well, Man City obviously beating Exeter City was a massive result, 10-1. I didn't see that result. You don't know whether it was 10 going on 15 or whatever, but you would expect Man City and teams like that to be giving the lower teams a right hard time of it. And 10-1 would not surprise me, but then you look at results like, you just wonder what's happened to them. Bristol City beating Watford. Watford not that long ago were a decent enough team in the Premiership, getting beat 5-1 with Bristol City. So there was no shock results because they're all levelers, some of them. But Wolves beating Shrewsbury, to be expected. But again, I wonder if that'll do Wolves a world of good. 6-1 to beat Shrewsbury Town.
That helped them in their league as well. The Wolves turned things around a wee bit, managed to get a draw against Everton, obviously Gob West Ham in the league as well. So
yeah.
So they've started turning things around at long last under, obviously, the new gaffer who jumped ship for Middlesbrough a number of years ago, a number of weeks ago. But beyond that, no real shocks. The table clash in the Championship last week, Stoke City beating Coventry 1-0. That's a game of two strong teams there. Certainly Coventry City under Frank Lampard, top in the Championship, and I think Stoke in the top 3 or 4 as well, So that was a big one there. And our friends, Tom House and obviously Andy Burrows will not be happy. Spurs going down 2-1 to Villa. But that was pretty much it. Nothing to write home about in the cup last week for the third round. When all the talk of the third rounds are.
I think Tom House will be quite happy because he's a Man United supporter, so he'll not be.
Sorry, Steve Hitchin.
Apologies. Steve is a bit Tottenham guy. I think he's a wee bit disillusioned with it at this moment in time. But just the way they've been playing, But we'll get them on start of February because Man United are playing Tottenham. So I think you're away that week, Friday night. I'll get the two of them on and we'll let them have a go at each other because they've not really set the hell on fire, Man United or Tottenham this year either. Just looking at the league, Man United 7th, right? It's not brilliant. You're looking for them to be up there challenging, and then you look at Tottenham and you say to yourself, what's going to happen with them? Are they going to lose their manager? They're sitting in 14th place. So I don't think he's got much time left before the hammer comes down on him. And we did say at the time it was a good appointment, but it just shows you sometimes trying to change the Premier League teams round overnight just doesn't work. So time will tell whether Tottenham keep their manager or not. But they've got a right challenge tomorrow, which they've got West Ham at home. And that's where they've really got to turn the corner if they want to actually do something. It would certainly give them a jump. It would take them up maybe 3 or 4 places if they can get a result there, which looks a wee bit more presentable. So we'll see what happens.
I think whatever manager loses that game could be out the door. Either Nuno could be out the door.
I would do that. Yeah. I think you might be right. Yeah.
I think Thomas Frank, if Spurs do lose that game, I know obviously Burrows has been on social media and things like that, and obviously our group chat as well. The American football group chat, obviously not the football pitch group chat, but I mean Burrows has been on that, effectively saying that the Spurs are playing some lousy football. They're really getting some shit results as well. So I think, whichever manager loses that game tomorrow could well be out of a job come Saturday night. So and Manchester United as well, as you say, they get knocked in the FA Cup last week as well. So pretty much Man United in January going to end up trophyless again come the end of the season. And if you're a Manchester United supporter, that's certainly not what you want. Man United, I think, would have expected to be challenging on at least 2 fronts this year. Hopefully doing something in the league. Certainly not going to challenge to win it, but I mean challenging at least for a European spot. They are in that just now, but I think they would have expected to maybe lift one of the cups. They're obviously not in the League Cup, and again knocked out the FA Cup at home to Brighton. So not been great. And Dan Fletcher saw his very short reign as interim manager come to an end, and Michael Carrick appointed there till the end of the season. I know Graham last week was saying about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. The Manchester United board have obviously thought better of that. Michael Carrick, a man I would have been quite happy, I think, to see either Celtic or Rangers. I think would have filled either of the 2 vacancies pretty well. But as it turns out, he's a caretaker boss at Old Trafford, Dennis.
Well, time will tell with this one, because what you've got to look at is no matter what manager's there, it's what the quality of players is he's got to work with.
Yeah.
Man United, I think, do need some January window players to come in. I don't care what anybody says. The bottom line is they are not good enough. And it's not the manager in a lot of ways, because we were talking last week about the manager, whether he should have stayed or whether he should have gone. I think Manchester United being such a big world club and the size of them, they really should be doing an awful lot better on the pitch, where players take the responsibility. And it doesn't matter who goes into that dressing room. You just need somebody that's got a wee bit about them to get in there and lead Manchester United out onto the park, because they don't need to be shown how to take free kicks, throw-ins, how to defend. That's the quality of players that they should be signing.
Yeah.
And what you really then look at is, have they got the desire to go and play for Manchester United and be winners, the way that Ferguson's team used to always have? The desire, when the chips were down, You had people in there that ground out results and really bust a gut, and they were feared. They don't have that in Manchester United now. They're just weak. It's almost like the wee boy syndrome, as I always say. It's no men that are playing at Man United anymore. And that's what needs to come back into it and be instilled into them, that this is Manchester United, and you don't come here to make up numbers. You come here to be a winner. And that means against every team in Europe or in the world, for that matter, because of the size of the club. I think some of them come in, pick up their paycheck and disappear. Now, a manager can't help that in a lot of ways, because that's the way players are nowadays. I had this conversation earlier on today, that basically players don't really worry too much about where their next meal's coming from, because they've had a big handful at these clubs and they're not going to get absolutely battered. They'll just turn their back in the club and go somewhere else and get a fat paycheck. So getting to motivate players is a massive thing nowadays. And it really takes... I look back at Man United without going too far on this one. The boy Pogba, right? Paul Pogba. I thought what a magnificent talent he was at Man United. World class. And yet, I don't think we ever seen anywhere near his potential the way that we had with Ronaldo. I think he's got so much talent, or he did have so much talent, it was requiring a manager or a person to manage him to get the best out of him. Yeah. And I think a lot of footballers are like that. They have been gifted with a talent, and they really need to be shown how to use and apply that talent. Nowadays, it just seems to be a bit money. Turn up. If you do the gig, fine. If no, hard lines, you can move to another club. Yeah. And managers are left almost stranded in the sideline, taking the brunt of it from every corner. And that's the sad part about football nowadays.
Yeah.
But Man United definitely need to give themselves a wee shake-up. And no matter who's in charge, it's down to the players and who they bring in as well.
And I think when you're talking about it and comparing just now with the Ferguson era, you know, obviously Sir Alex had leaders all round his pitch. You know, if you want to go as far back, Brian Robson, you had Brian Robson, you had Steve Bruce, you had Roy Keane, obviously Beckham, Giggs, Paul Scholes. You know, that team, Gary Neville, whatever you like, whatever you say about Gary Neville and everything he is off the park now, you know, in terms of obviously his media work and everything else, you know, he had leaders in that team, you know, and that's the difference now. You look at Manchester United, their captain flatters at times to deceive. He can turn it on when he wants and switch it off far too often, but he's petulant, you know, he can be childish on a football park if things aren't going his way. Roy Keane, if things weren't going his way, could still lift everybody else around him, you know, and he could stick it in and whatever else, you know, he could put the boot in, he could...
But the problem you've got with Roy Keane is Roy Keane couldn't play in today's modern matches.
No.
Because he's far too physical. And, you know, I look at that and I go, that's to the detriment of the game. We miss that, or I certainly miss it, that kind of physical contact. I mean, I can't remember what game it was last week there, and somebody challenged with the goalkeeper, and it just was an absolute nonsense. I'm thinking, what kind of football matches are we playing now? We are getting involved and whatever else. But certainly Roy Keane was magnificent, but not for today's game. Every time he went in for a tackle, VAR would be interrupting.
Aye.
So it's a different type of football matches that we're getting involved in now, because it's actually been driven by people sitting in a room deciding whether we're being entertained or robbed of decent goals. Yeah. So, you know, it has changed, and maybe that's the way that we've just got to accept it. For looking back to players that you have mentioned there, Cammy, Man United were magnificent and a treat to watch. But a few of the teams really were then. But at the same time, it's not the same matches that we can now look at.
No, that's it. But anyway, we're looking tonight again. Let's quickly look back. We've spent 20 odd minutes here discussing England, discussing the FA Cup and what's happening down south. When we look at what's happening north of the border, our own side of obviously the Carlisle, if you like, midweek results in the Premier League, two massive results. Celtic went to came to Falkirk. Obviously, that's where I am at the moment. Came to Falkirk and managed to grind out a 1-0 result, victory over Falkirk. I think Martin O'Neill after the game said, obviously, Celtic did not play well. I don't think it took a genius to work that one out. But 10-man Hearts, 10 men for almost 70 minutes against St Mirren, who I did say last week had been their bogey team up until this point. They managed to get a 2-0 victory. Lawrence Shanklin gets the goals there as well, and that keeps Hearts 6 points clear of both Celtic and Rangers in the race for the Premier League title. And behind them is probably the form team in the Scottish game just now in the shape of Motherwell. I think Motherwell are 8 wins out of 10 and drawn the other 2, so we are very critical, and we've said it many times on this programme. We are very critical at times of our game, but we've got a league race, a 3-horse race for the title, no matter what anybody says. And as I say, Motherwell playing some fantastic football. Hibs are getting results, Falkirk top 6, absolutely magnificent, so I don't think the game is as bad as what we make it out to be. But as I say, if Hearts can go on and lift the title, but again, we're repeating and going over old ground on that. So let's move forward and
just on the back of that, Cammy. Yep. Hearts have got a problem now because Cammy Devlin has been ruled out injured because he came off the other night there. With a knock. He came off when, I don't know, we were looking at, it was just right at the death of the game, to be honest. And he took a fair knock. Now, apparently he's out for about 6 weeks, maybe longer. So for me, that's a massive blow to Hearts. Yeah, because he's the engine in there that has kept that desire and the willingness to win, chasing lost causes when they lack the talent maybe of some other players round about. The desire to win is driven from him. Now, there's other players there, don't get me wrong, but I think he's the key person to that Hearts team. And it'll be interesting to see with him missing for the next few games, because obviously their next game, I think, is against Celtic. And that'll be very, very interesting to see who comes in there and actually fills the gap that's going to take them forward. Because this is a true test now, I think, of Hearts, because we know for a fact that no team gets through the season without getting hit with injuries. But when you've got a player of his calibre for this season, and he's been really exceptional, it is a real test to see what Hearts have got in the tank. There's no doubt about it. So that'll be interesting to see what turns out with this. But that's a bad injury he's got for this moment in time.
Yeah, ruled out for anything between 6 to 8 weeks. As you say, he is going to miss the Celtic game. He's also going to miss the Scottish Cup game this weekend as well against Falkirk. So, it will be a big miss, there's no doubt. But I think Hearts have got a depth of squad there that obviously it is a depth of squad. They brought in a few players as well, So,
I'm interested.
I think strengthening this window. So, interesting to see what happens there. And that game against Celtic is going to be absolutely pivotal in what happens in the league, but we will look ahead to that one later on. Looking ahead to, as we say, the Scottish Cup, we will keep this a reasonably shorter episode tonight because we want to try and get watching the game. If we look ahead tonight, as I say, you've got that game tonight, Rangers against Annan Athletic. Could well have been Rangers against Clyde, but Clyde decided to not turn up at home to Annan in the second round, get knocked out. So it's Annan Athletic who have drawn the plum tie at Ibrox, and they're there tonight. We'll look at fixtures tomorrow. Then Fairman against Hibs. That could be a cracker. That could be a really, really good game. Airdrieonians against Arbroath. A game which I might well take a run along to. I was at the last one when they knocked out Edinburgh City, England Juniors. Then United against Ayr. Kelty Hearts against Cove Rangers, two of the newer teams in the league. Killie against the Knee. Let you.
Yeah, I'm right. You
get Killie against the Knee. Livy St Mirren tomorrow, and they also play in league business, I think, on Tuesday night. Motherwell at home to Ross County. Partick Thistle at home to Montrose. Spartans against Inverness Cally Thistle, Steny against Morton, Stranraer against Queen's Park, which could be another good game. And again, the tie of the rounds, 8 o'clock tomorrow night, Hearts against Falkirk, so it's fantastic ties here. As I say, I think the Dunfermline Hibs tie could be an absolute cracker. Obviously, Hibernian going to side managed by former Hibs manager Neil Lennon.
Yeah.
Livingston against St Mirren, all Premier League clash, as is Killie against Dundee. And indeed, Stuart Kettlewell going back to Motherwell for the
interesting. Yeah, interesting. I wonder if he'll actually get stick when he goes there, because I think what some people forget is he did have a good start at Motherwell. It just went pear-shaped from in the second part of his managerial stint there. So I hope they don't give him stick, because I know Stuart and he's a decent human being, and it would be unfair when he's trying to make an honest living out of wherever he goes. So, yeah, I hope the Motherwell supporters don't get in his back and just let the game take its course.
Yeah,
unless of course Ross County turn Motherwell over, which I don't think will happen.
I can't see that one. Motherwell have been absolutely outstanding. They really have, and not just get Dennis have been playing some damn good football as well.
That's right.
That against a couple of weeks ago where they played them off the park. Other games on Sunday in the Scottish Cup, we've got Aberdeen against Wraith Rovers. That could be an interesting tie, and Auchinleck Talbot, I think the last junior side left in the cup competition, at home to Camelin is well. Of course, I'm going to the game tomorrow. Can't be going to that game tomorrow, so they're in it as well. Sorry. Maybe after tomorrow they might well be the last junior side left in the cup.
To be honest, I think, and looking at that, just going back to the Camelin against Elgin, I think Camelin have got a great shout, because Elgin have got to come all the way down. Now, I can't see them staying overnight to come and play a junior team. I might be wrong, but at the same time, Camelin in their own ground, I would say there's every chance of an upset there in Camelin beating Elgin. I might be wrong, but we'll see next week whether I'm a mile out or no, which sometimes happens. But if you were maybe just looking at a wee edging a bet there, I would maybe just think Camelin could edge that match. So I'll tell you what, a really good tie.
As I say, I was at the last game where they played Edinburgh City. A game I actually did pay to get into, by the way. Wasn't on corporate or media else, you know what I mean? So, and I think they were deserving of their victory. The first half was pretty much a non-entity, but the second half did come to life a wee bit. And as I say, I think Camelin did enough in the second half, certainly to win it. Edinburgh City equalised close to the end of the game, and as it looked as if it was going to be heading towards extra time, Camelin popped up with the winner. So, and it was a decent game. Certainly the second half was a decent advert, I think, for again the lower reaches of the Scottish game, certainly for the junior competitions. So I think I will take a wee run along to that game tomorrow, and I'll be able to give you my views on it.
That was a home tie. That was a home tie as well, again for Camelin against Edinburgh City. Yeah. And just looking at the attendance there was nearly 800 at the game.
Yeah.
That's a displayed figure. I'm sure there's probably more at that. But nearly 800 at that last match, which is no bad shout for a junior game.
Yeah, well, as I say, they certainly drag in a decent support, and as I say, experience being as I say, I have enjoyed a lot of the games I've covered this year in terms, obviously, lower league games and things like that, So, and that was no exception. As I say, a number of weeks ago, along at Camelin there. So, should be a good game that tomorrow. But to me, tie of the round over the weekend definitely is.
Premier League.
I was going to say, if we step out of the Premier League, I definitely do think Hibs going to East End Park at 12:30 tomorrow. I think that could well be an absolute cracker.
I mean, if you Hearts, sorry, Hibs have been going very, very well.
Yeah,
I know, and that's the point I was going to make. I'm wondering whether the cup tie, Scottish Cup tie, could just catch Hibs out at this moment in time, because they are doing very, very well, but I think they're vulnerable in a few positions. More so in that central defence, as you've heard me rattle on before about
defence supporters going
so, so if Dunfermline are playing to their game and Hibs slip a bit, you could have a cup upset there, without any question of doubt. There's not a gulf there that you would imagine would be massive, and I'm sure Neil Lennon, in the way that he departed Hibs, would be absolutely over the moon to turn them over.
Yeah, and again, obviously, the other game, Tynecastle, 8 p.m. tomorrow night. Last week, he'll be at that game tomorrow. Obviously, I think Falkirk have knocked Hearts out the cup. The last twice they've met in cup competition. So that should be, and obviously that's as a lower league club. So that's an interesting tie tomorrow night. And by no means,
by the way, I watched Falkirk during the week. Falkirk looked brilliant. Seriously, absolutely, really, really impressed with them, Cammy. I thought they were really, really good. Where they're sitting at this moment in time, they're sitting in the 6th spot, and you've got to really hand it to them. They've been absolutely brilliant. I mean, if they hold on to that 6th spot, then the way they've been playing, they'll have deserved it. It's not through luck. They've got quality there, and I actually thought, this is you pay to go and watch that. Falkirk are decent.
Yeah, 100%. You know, they have played well a couple of times this season. Been well impressed with them. Obviously, the one of the games was a game against Dundee, when by arguments they could have been down to 10 men, but we discussed that at the time. They went up to Tannadice a couple of weeks ago, turned over Dundee United. They've won at Aberdeen and beat Aberdeen at home as well, you know. And they gave Celtic a game the other night, you know. So, fully deserving of that top 6 spot. And you're right, if Falkirk can hang on to that, and when you look at the sides below them and the form that they're in, there's nothing to suggest that Falkirk won't hold on to that top 6 spot, you know. So, be interesting to see what happens. But no, a good few interesting Scottish Cup ties over the weekend, and we can certainly look at them next week when we're back. If we look at the Premier League then, before we go tonight, it is kind of short show. We will, obviously, the Rangers games kicks off in a few minutes, and I think we would be doing disrespect if we didn't try and sit down and watch most of that game, you know. So
most people, if they're listening, will want to watch it rather than listening to us. That's stating the obvious, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it, exactly. Our viewing figures could drop for
5 to 1
minutes, you know. So there we are. But if we look at the Premier League, big game down there tomorrow, 12:30 kick-off, the Manchester Derby at Old Trafford. Not bad for Michael Carrick for his first game, you know, against Pep Guardiola.
By the way, that could be painful. Seriously.
That could be painful. But by the same token, Manchester United, the last couple of seasons, they have actually managed to raise their game for the big ones, you know, the Arsenals, the Man United, the Liverpools, the Man City, Chelsea. It's been the games against the Brightons, the Brentfords, the Fulhams, Leeds a couple of weeks ago. You know, the Crystal Palaces of the world where they have struggles, you know. So, we'll see what happens tomorrow. But that should be, obviously, I'm saying should be. That's going to finish nothing each, I think. It did so at the Etihad earlier in the season. That's another one that could end up finishing nothing each. Or 6-0 to Man City. You know, it's one of the ones that's going to go one way or the other. If we look at other games tomorrow, Stamford Bridge sees Chelsea taking on Brentford. Liam Rossinier, I think that's his first league game. He's obviously had a couple of games in the Cup. Last week in the FA Cup and in midweek, they went down 3-2 at home to Arsenal in their version of the League Cup. We've got Leeds United at home to Fulham, Liverpool, Burnley, Sunderland, Crystal Palace. The game we talked about earlier on, Spurs against West Ham United. And if Manchester City slip up in the early game, Arsenal could extend the lead at the top as they go to the City ground to face Nottingham Forest. A Nottingham Forest side who have started to turn things around a little bit, you know, and they've been getting some results. But I mean, Arsenal at the moment, 6 points clear, same goal difference at the top of the table. So they're 6 points clear of Manchester City and Aston Villa, with a resurgent Liverpool managing to pull themselves into fourth spot. Brentford, Dennis, a side who many of us, including you and I, to really be struggling when Thomas Frank left. They're sitting in fifth spot, all on the road.
I know, incredible.
And Manchester United.
They've not lost a game in the last 6 that I've got in front of me.
Yeah.
4 victories and 2 draws. Who would have ever dreamt that Brentford would have that amount of victories back to back, more or less, in the English Premier League? It's absolutely stunning. And they've got to be. These are the type of managers that you don't let them exhaust the team. Get them to a better move before they drift off. We could say, well, that was a fault that happened with Graham Potter doing at Brighton. He gets shifted to a bigger club. And what happened was the bottom fell out of him when they were going absolutely magnificent. So maybe what I'm saying there would be wrong for them to change the manager. He looked for better things. Just keep it going and see where they end up. But 5th spot is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, 5th spot midway through the season.
Incredible.
Many were tipping them because of the managerial appointment that they've made to replace Thomas Frank. Many were tipping them for the bubble to burst, and certainly that hasn't happened. You've got Newcastle in 6th spot, Man United in 7th. Chelsea have slipped away a wee bit and they're level in points with Fulham. Sunderland is always going to be difficult to keep it going for the season, but they're sitting in 10th again, top half of the table. Brighton, Everton, Crystal Palace have started to slip. Spurs, as we mentioned earlier, Bournemouth, Leeds, and as we say, Nottingham Forest have turned things around. The 3 sides at the foot are certainly starting to get isolated. West Ham under Nuno, Burnley and Wolves, who, as I say, managed to get their first win a couple of weeks ago when they beat West Ham 3-0 at Molineux, So that's pretty much the English Premier League there.
You touched on it earlier, Cammy, about West Ham and Man United. Or Tottenham, sorry. If Tottenham get a result against West Ham, you can almost start to think that's signed their fate, because if they're not turning it round now under the way they're being steered, I think that could be curtains for them. And that would be a shame, because they've just went in free fall even before Graham Potter and Billy Reid went there, and it's never worked out. And I don't know what the problem is. It must be from players getting the right players in, because West Ham is a big club. If you look back, David Moyes done a magnificent job. They get rid of him, and from then it's just been free fall in my mind. I don't think they've really been worth looking at any given time. And certainly when Billy Reid was there, I found him a really hard watch, because at Chelsea even, I thought Graham Potter and Billy Reid had done a better job at Chelsea than West Ham. But I remember Billy maybe saying at one point when he got the job, I said, "How many players do you think you'll need?" And he said, "Maybe about 12. Well, I don't think we're anywhere near that in the window of the close season to bring players in. In fact, there was very few brought in. And if you're then trying to manoeuvre yourself into a challenging position in the Premier League, and you're maybe only getting half the quota that you were looking for or suggest you would need, then that's a sign that the club are needing to have a right good look at themselves. And whether that's new, I don't know.
I think when you look at the sides who are, you've got West Ham and just above them, you've got Nottingham Forest. It's a case of be careful what you wish for. As we say, West Ham United decided that David Moyes, after winning them a European trophy, West Ham decided, we really, it's time we made a change. And that's been the downfall of them. And again, you look at Nottingham Forest, 5 games into the season, they decided, Nuno's know what we want. We really need to think about upgrading the manager a wee bit. A side who got you to European football last season, they replace him very, very quickly. They then have to replace Big Ange as his replacement. They John Dyche, and Dyche has steadied the ship, made them a wee bit more solid. But when you look at these 2 clubs, they're fully not the fans, but the board are fully deserving in what they've got for the mismanagement of both these clubs, particularly West Ham United. But Nottingham Forest are right there as well in terms of obviously foolish changes changes when you were successful, but to try and push you on to a better level or the next level. And both have fallen flat in their arses and are fully deserving of where they are now. The board deserve everything they got at these two clubs.
It's very difficult to sort of look at some of these. See, you've got fan power now that the board have to make sharp decisions when the fans turn on the board. So they know that they're not going to be a casualty of war. They're going to make sure the lamb to the slaughter is actually going to be the manager, nothing else, because that's what we're paying them for,
Yeah.
So 3 or 4-0 to City, someone's put in.
Scott Hartley. So Scott, one of my Washington mates, actually spent last weekend with Scott. So he's reckoning 3 or 4-0 for Manchester City tomorrow.
I'll tell you what, he might not be far away with that. Might not be far away. It could be worse. It could be worse.
Yeah, it's either going to finish nothing each, or I think it'll be a bit of a drubbing. I don't think that game's going to be a one goal.
No,
and that type thing. I think it is. It's going to be either nothing each, or I think as Scott says, and as we both said, Manchester City could go there and rack up, maybe not quite a cricket score, but certainly rack up a good few goals.
Well, it's a 12:30 kick-off anyway, so we'll know before 3 o'clock where Man City are looking to go, whether it's to try and capture some more points against Arsenal or banana skin and Man United. I'm just looking to see, they would jump up a couple of places before the other games are played. They would leapfrog and go above Brentford. So, although they're looking poor at this moment in time, there is only a few points in it. So,
not much.
Interesting, yeah.
No, as I say, I think we will try and keep it as a short show tonight.
It's okay.
And as I say, you're obviously struggling still with that bit of a chest infection. The viewing figures have just dropped as everybody's went to sit there and go and turn the telly on and watch the Rangers game. So I think pretty much, hang on a second, I'm just trying to do something there with the phone and making a complete pig's idiot, so we'll come back to that later on. But no, I think that's us for tonight. As I say,
Rangers score, Cammy. What do you think the Rangers score will be against Annan?
4-0.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Maybe 5.
Yeah, I don't.
They've got to start scoring more goals now, Rangers. Or I can't even envisage Annan, with no disrespect to them, getting anything out of the game. I think Rangers are not turned the corner, but I think they're just going to be a bit too much for them. And Celtic will be the same. Although I think Auchinleck will be a tougher challenge than probably Annan, with it being a cup tie.
Thing is, that game's at Rugby Park. If that was getting played at Auchinleck Talbot on Sunday, but I think the game.
I know that. Yeah, that's it. That's a hand you're dealt when you need money. So,
it's one of these things, So unfortunately, the game getting played there. So I think obviously both of the Old Firm will go through this weekend. I think Hearts should just have enough in the tank to beat Falkirk. I think that's a very close game. Yeah. And I think when you look at some of these fixtures, I don't see many Scottish Cup shocks, unless, as I say, Dunfermline can get something at home to Hibs. That would be about it for me, So
Well, the game has started. It's 2 minutes into it, and it's nothing each. So.
It's still nothing each. So there we are. Bother. Short episode tonight. Thanks very much to anybody who's listened. As I say, we've had a number of listeners, number of viewers tonight. Go ahead, please subscribe, tell your pals, get your budgie, your auntie, your granny, get them all subscribed, get your Doug. If you got a goldfish, get it as well, get the girlfriend, the mistress, whatever you want, and not to leave anybody out, get your boyfriend, get your, no, stop at that, I think, but say, go ahead, subscribe, tell everybody. It does help out the show, and as I say, we're pushing towards 100 subscribers if we can get to the 3/4 of a century first. It depends what comes first. What hits 3/4 of a century? Your subscribers or Dennis? So
yeah, I think that might be it. Yep.
Dennis, enjoy the rest of your weekend, mate.
You too.
Are you golfing this week? Or are you giving
no,
it's
too cold. Too cold. I need to just
fair weather golfer. The way you're chest is, you're
I need another few days just to get rid of this bug, but it should be brand new next week. Anyway,
super.
Good to see you, Cammy.
It's always good to see you. We'll get a coffee next weekend, going through a few things. But say, go ahead, like, subscribe, because after all, it is always happening on the pitch. Good night.